Should we buy or sell Ripple? First off, read this disclaimer carefully. And do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So we do see that we are 16% away from the 52-week low, but we are still a whopping minus 73% away from the 52-week highs. So this is, big time bear market. Here is, the website for Ripple Business Impact, powered by crypto. Transform the way you move, manage, and tokenize value. So here are various, business partners. Yeah, this is definitely a very unsafe place to walk, but yeah. Let's look at the chart. So maybe there is, well, I mean, there is some level of unsafety in this chart as well. The big issue here is that we have lost all the moving averages. We do have some kind of horizontal support here, but it's not, we don't have a lot, that's the issue. But let me just draw it in. So from this level here, you do see that, there's some support back here as well, and even back here. So that could help the bulls. But to be perfectly clear, the bears, they have made a lot of good moves recently, done a lot of damage, frankly. Looking at, the daily data points here, the bears are, attempting to break this key level here. If they break below this level, that will definitively accelerate the downward pressure. Here on the dailies, we are literally below all the moving averages. Even this light blue 5-day moving average is a short level for the bears. So let's look at, so looking at the RSI. So weekly data points, RSI, this is a dangerous level also for the bears though, because shorting at the highs, that is when you have a bit of a decent risk reward, because at least longer term you have the ability, well, decent odds that you will be right. But at these very low levels, it is dangerous to be a bear, even though the bears currently are in control. Looking at the daily data points, yeah, it's a bit of a similar message. Yes, the bears are still in control, but looking here at the PPOs and the RSI, it is much better to put on short positions when you have high RSI and high PPOs. To put on a short position while we are at the very low end of RSI, it can be done, but it is at significant higher risk. So we are definitively oversold here. But I think I will only give the bulls a 1. The reason why they only get a 1 is because they have had so many opportunities to turn various levels into a point where they can sort of rally the troops and get an uptrend. But so far they have failed at each of the levels that were thrown at them. As such, they can't get anything better than a 1. Let's look at the seasonality. So here to the right, this is really not good, because tomorrow is literally where the bullish seasonality usually peaks, and we go straight down here towards early July. So definitively not good seasonality. To the left here, over the last 5 years, May is a bad month. June is one of the weakest months for Ripple. Over the last 8 years here, we see that May only closes higher 38% of the time, and June, which is right around the corner, is the worst month for Ripple. I give the seasonality here a -7. This is really just not good. A good time to turn bullish if you are into seasonality. I don't think there are fundamentals when it comes to cryptocurrencies, at least not informative fundamentals. So far, it seems like this image from the Ripple website is becoming more prophetic. Okay, so let's look at some correlations. We do have an 81% long-term positive correlation with the S&P 500, 86% with Bitcoin, 29% positive with gold, then minus 38% with the dollar index. Daily data points: 80% S&P 500, 94% with Bitcoin, 28% with gold, and minus 65% with the dollar index. So, unsurprisingly, what happens with Bitcoin is going to have the biggest effect on Ripple. Yeah, here we have the weekly data points, and we have lost all the moving averages, we have lost all the horizontal support levels. We have a bit of a messy head and shoulders pattern. You could argue that this is a shoulder, this is a head, and this is the right shoulder. This is not good. Here again, we do see on the RSI that we are at a level that is dangerous for the bears. If you look here, we had a similar RSI level. It formed a low. This is back in 2014, so let's look a bit at that. So here we have this kind of level, and it did form a low for Bitcoin. When we jump to the daily data points, we are emerging from a rather low level. So the thing is that, the bears have obviously done a lot of damage. We are below all the moving averages. We are losing also potential horizontal support here. Let me just draw that in. So we could have some support here, but the bears are trying to close us lower. Then again, even though we do have a downtrend, is this a good time to put on a new bearish position on Bitcoin? It's not clear. I would certainly not put on any big short position here, because we have seen quite a few weeks in a row here with sell-off. So let's count it here. So this is the 8th week where we have been going down, 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 and that is rare. Here is Ripple versus Bitcoin. It's a bit of a messy chart. We are not at like some super key levels here on the RSI. In terms of the actual relationship here in the chart, we do see a bit of a breakdown. So Ripple is underperforming Bitcoin. Yeah, so let's look at the seasonality, like that. Yeah, so Ripple has a tendency to begin to underperform Bitcoin systematically between the 29th of May and approximately 6th-ish of July. So that is not bullish, obviously. So yeah, that image on the website, yeah, it was not a good image. It was an omen, for sure. So here I am looking at Bitcoin versus the Nasdaq. So in this case, not exactly something to be roaringly bullish about, but not exactly like bearish either. It's this right here could potentially be a double bottom level. Further, we do see that we are we are at our RSI support as well. You see that back here it formed a low back here as well. It wasn't too shabby to turn bullish on Bitcoin, meaning Bitcoin began to outperform the Nasdaq. So interesting. Looking at seasonality, what do we get then? Yeah, in terms of the seasonality, then we do see that Bitcoin has a tendency to underperform the Nasdaq. Okay. Here I am looking at Bitcoin versus the total crypto market index from TradingView. So in this case, on the weeklies, we have an interesting development. So we have gone from, so let me just draw that in. We had this period of massive underperformance, then outperformance, then underperformance, and now we are consolidating a bit. So I think that maybe like the yellow color is more appropriate. But this is interesting. It seems like it's around this level here. Approximately, this is where there is some support, and we are further flirting a bit here with a breakout. Looking at the RSI, we have been higher during previous rallies. So meaning there is enough fuel in the tank to not simply get a breakout, but to get a bit more of a solid breakout, because that is super important. Because if we had this level here in this relationship, but let's say that we were at the high historical range of RSI, then it would be a far higher probability, a risk, that we would fail to break out. But this is interesting. Very much so, frankly. Let's look here at the seasonality, like that. Yeah, so looking here in red over the last 10 years, it's a bit flattish. In blue here over the last 7 years, a bit flattish, but some tendency for Bitcoin to outperform. Then in green here over the last 5 years, then generally speaking, Bitcoin tends to outperform the broader, the total crypto market. I just can't get over this image. I mean, who thought this was a good idea? I mean, what kind of marketing team would be like, oh yeah, we should have a photo of you walking on, some railroad tracks, with like briefcase. I end up with a -4 here on relative performance. I think that, Bitcoin is frankly more interesting than Ripple. So if you want to get into cryptos, I would rather bet on Bitcoin, even though, to be perfectly clear, the bears are very much in control when it comes to Bitcoin, but the bears have really pushed it far. So if I was like forced to put on a position, so let's say that someone gave me like 10 grand, but there's a contingency. I have to either be long or short Bitcoin for, let's say, the coming 6 months. In that case, looking at the chart, especially, I would feel uncomfortable being short Bitcoin, at least more uncomfortable being short than long. But yeah, we end up with the -3.3 here for Ripple. It is oversold, but there are some really bad data when it comes to the seasonality when we looked at relative performance. And we also, looked at the website. The thing is that one of the most personal thing for any business is, the website. That is that place where they can communicate their business, their organization, the way they want to. That image, which is on the front page, it could actually be a bit of a sign about what's happening internally with the company. It could be that they feel very just demoralized. It's simply not the image you put on a website if you feel good about the future. It just isn't. So yeah, Ripple. Yeah, it's yeah, maybe there's a train heading right for it. Who knows? In terms of the broader crypto market, the thing is that I am hopeful of when it comes to cryptocurrencies, but the big gripe, grievance that I have with all the cryptocurrencies is that they do not behave like currencies. They behave, and the organizations around them behave as if they are stocks. That's very different. A currency is supposed to be used for commerce. And cryptocurrencies, they are not a new thing anymore. It's been quite a few years, and I think the window of opportunity is closing very, very fast. So I hope that cryptocurrencies will make it, but I think there's been far too much time wasted. And while the crypto community was very distracted, the enemies of cryptos, the masters of fiat money, they have not been wasting their time. They are very steadily working towards creating their own alternatives to cryptos. And when those alternatives go live, then I can guarantee you there will be a major declaration of war, basically, on cryptocurrencies that are not tied to some fiat currency. And if you have played like strategy games like StarCraft, then you know that what determines the victor is what happens very early. It is what happens before the enemies clash on the battlefield. That, when you gather resources, you strategize, you plan, you build the buildings you need. And what I'm so infuriated by is that, the cryptocurrencies, they just haven't done that. There's simply been far too much focus on the price. It's almost exclusively been about the price itself of the cryptocurrencies. And if you go to FinTwit and of course YouTube, and you look, you search for Bitcoin and Ripple, you will see that it's all about where is the price going next, instead of being like how many new e-commerce stores will use cryptocurrencies, how many new financial institutions will get into crypto partnerships, or how many new people are transacting using cryptos. But yeah. Whatever you do, of course, you want to use stops, be market neutral, and pray for cryptocurrencies going forward, because they definitely need thoughts and prayers.